Hey, so you broke the charger to your RC toy. What are you gonna do? You can't charge the battery with your by sticking it in a jar of lemonade. I don't think. That'll probably cause some adverse reactions. Don't do that. So yeah, you broke the plug off. That sucks, doesn't it? Like, there's that, like, the plug comes off. It's not. It's quick releasing from the wrong end. So what do you do? Well, first off, that noise in the background, ignore that. It's my 3D printer printing more wonderful junk because I love to 3D print. So, yeah, this doesn't apply to this charger necessarily, though you could use it to fix this charger. I already went and split the case apart. This video is more about just attacking something. The first thing and the most important thing about this video is don't be scared, people. It's already broken, right? Yeah? Most would throw this away. Most consider it junk. Most will call a manufacturer, and it's pretty awesome that this manufacturer's real quick about doing stuff and will help you out. But yeah, in the time that it takes for you to even call them, let alone waiting for one to be shipped out, you could make it new and improved just with the soldering iron. And yeah, and what I'm getting at is it's already broken. You're not going to make it worse, right? It's broken. Wear safety goggles so you don't burn like your eyeballs out, and keep your fingers out of the hot bits, and we'll show you how to fix this thing. It's pretty freaking simple. So what do we do here first? Well, we're going to wander over onto Google, and we're going to search through Google, and we're going to look up micro USB pinout, because this is micro USB, and we're going to look up the pinout for it. Be careful when you're looking around that you don't get the pinout for this side, because a lot of times they'll just show you a drawing on the end, and it'll be the wrong way. But you're looking at a drawing right now that I found. So yeah, if you see in this pinout, it shows the one side as being positive and the other side being negative. That's what we care about. The inside port, one kind of is a trip port that you could use a resistor to tell it that it's hooked to a high charge port or something like that, but we're not trying to tell it that. The other two ports that are on there are data ports, of 5 ports. The 2 outside ports are the ones we're concerned with. You don't want to get those wrong. So it's pretty simple. This thing went right on top of here like that. Here, I got a tool I can plug it into. This is no longer a cable, it's an application tool. So yeah, you could get handy if you really wanted to. This is a good point. There is actually enough solder left on there. Let me make sure the camera's going to focus. And that's not really wanting to focus, but yeah, you could double check that the solder points are all lined up and happy there. If they are like that, a lot of times you could get away with something like this. Put a little flux on there, laying this on top, and I would even use this. I'd actually use a cut off bit of it. I don't know. Oh, here's my bit that we'll get to in a second. But I would probably just nip an extra. That's why I keep stuff like this with a little cable on the end, because you never know what you're going to do. I just throw that in the drawer. But I'd probably nip this off of this application so I had a nice proper tool. Flux it up real good. You could either use a fine tip soldering iron, well, it's on this one. Let's show you guys proper here. Be careful pulling this stuff on and off. That's sharp bits, and if you slip doing it, it'll shred you in a second. Yeah, so I would use solder and float this thing back down onto there. But the problem with doing that, fine tip soldering iron, hot air rework gun, you could even, if you're careful because there's no components on the bottom, flux this, make sure it's perfectly flat, and put it in a toaster oven and let that stuff flow down onto there. It'll also help out into the other connections that are around that are kind of iffy. But the problem with that is you're still going to have this really weak joint. This whole thing relies on just these 2 little tabs in here. Just those little guys is the whole mechanical structure that holds this down. It's not very good. Beforehand breaking one, you could glue it down a little better, put glue over the top, but then you risk gluing the plug in and blah, 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 so it doesn't work very well. So the fix is I already went and cut this cable end off here. And if you use a cheap cable, just like a recharge cable you got with some device, more than likely it's not going to have the 4 wires in it, power ground or VCC, and the 2 TX and RX data. It wouldn't have those in them, cheap charge cables. Like, this is a more expensive, like an actual phone data cable. It's going to have 4 wires in it. and shielding. It's going to be harder to work with. If you just grab the cheapest recharge cable you got with the device, strip it back, because you can still use a data cable to recharge that device, strip it back, and now you'll just have the two negative and positive wires. You could go in and check to make sure that they're correct here and look up all that pinout, but I've never once had the colors backwards on these, but you know, it'll probably happen on that video, on this video, just for that reason. So anyways, I'm yammering here, but what we're looking at is a little pokey device here. If I already annotated on the bottom here, so I got positive on this side, negative on this side. So the positive, if you look at the trace, it's that little outside one right there. It goes out to this plane, and over to, it's a diode D. It's and besides it's marked with a D. You just don't want to guess on that. It's black with this line on it. That means the electrons could. We're not going to get into that. It's a one-way device for electricity. It helps protect the circuit in here. The other side is the ground plane, and then that's what that one here. But the thing about this is I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. So what we're going to do is fire up my handy-dandy continuity tester, and make sure you use a good one so it's low voltage. And see, when I touch these magicals together, we get a beep. So I'm going to come down onto here. I'm going to ever so carefully get down maybe where you guys can see a little better. I'm going to hold this over here on the positive, or what I believe to be the positive. And I'm just going to try to touch on this far. You see those row of 5 pins? Just that out one. See how that outside one lights up? Sweet. So I know that's positive. So versus trying to solder this heavy duty wire onto that little spot and it all being weak and wanted to rip that trace out, I'm going to solder my positive over onto here. That's like the burliest thing on the board. Like that, yeah, you rip that off, you're having other issues. Then to check the ground, my one terminal's broke, so I'm using these this way. I'm pretty sure this is the ground plane because it's what's passing through the board and everything. I'm going to check just this outside one. See, it's not the ground plane. But this stuff is all behind it. All this is ground plane, which it should be, because that's the outside of these cases is the ground. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to strip more of this cable back. Strippers here. Something about that much. You guys back up here. So now I have this strip back. I want to lay this on here. I'm going to do the positive. Then I'm going to do the negative onto here. Bamski. But I want this to have some stress relief, so I think I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, I like that better. I guess I didn't need to strip so much of it off. But I'm going to put this over here about here. I'm going to solder this here, and this here, and then do some stress relieving. So let's get the soldering iron out. Tippy's the good. So yeah, this is a Portasol. Whoa. Butane iron. Drunken Irish guys made this thing. It's awesome as all get up. I'll put a link down below for you guys. And if you ever see a link in my video, that is an affiliate link, and you don't pay any extra, but if you buy through that link, it helps my channel out. The one thing I'll say about this Portasol gun, besides the fact that it's wireless, it runs on butane, it runs forever, the temperature control's awesome. But for many years, I wired automobiles up, did custom electronics and hot rods and all that sort of thing. And this guy was my money maker. When you're under a dash or in a trunk or in a weird position soldering wires, you need to be able to, you're hot, you're cramped, things aren't the nicest, so something that you can work with a lot easier is handy. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Portasol. So I tinned up my wires here. I'm tinning up my pads. So my ground pad, get over here to the positive, and all we're doing is just getting a little nice new flux going on here. One, so your flavor of flux mixes with the flavor that's already on there, and two, it gets rid of all the oxidation and gets a little layer. I'm using a rosin core solder here. It's silver bearing rosin core Dagnag camera. Yeah, so that's what I'm using. It's a little on the thick side, but it's what Home Depot had when I picked up. It's good for wiring. It's good for regular wiring, but fine stuff like this is pretty bulky. So to make this easy, I'm gonna hook up the ground over here first, and we want to make sure we do our best to keep it clear of obstacles and things that it's gonna cause a short to. The one thing with the Portasol is you got to be careful where the exhaust points, so you don't want to point that onto your finger. You'll realize it right away, or onto a component that's not going to like it. It would help if I put a piece of tape or, even use the camera leg like this to help hold this down, and do this left-handed so the camera could see better. And the trick is not to burn yourself here. Take your time. Remember, it's already broke in the first place. You're not going to make it worse. I like to work with a hot iron, an iron on the hot side of things, because it makes the work quicker. So when you set down on it and everything's prepped, the joints go together quicker, and you're not sitting there hanging out on it, because when you're doing that, all it's doing is dissipating heat into the whole world. So no bueno. So yeah, we got that's all soldered up. That's soldered up. It looks like I have nothing touching that shouldn't be. So let's take a charger here. Plug this in. And it lights up. And it's ready for action. I see no smoke coming out. So isn't that cool, pretty people? We fixed this bad boy up with just a few minutes of time. This video is going to be like less than 12, 15 minutes, something like that, with me gibbering. So yeah, in the time that it takes for you to call and ask for replacement, you could fix this better because it's so heavy duty. But I want to go one step further, so it doesn't, like, that's way stronger than it was before. But I'm going to go one step further. I like this stuff. Seems to work pretty good on most things. I'm just going to put a big old splooge of that down on here, let it dry up, and then I won't have to worry about it. It'll be good to rock and roll. Hot glue is hydrophilic. It's going to attract water near these really low voltage connections that cause this board to do funny things. You wouldn't want to do that. And super glue, crayon acetate or whatever, is horrible for electronic components. So something like this, silicone, shoe goop works good too. But yeah, that's how you fix one of these things. While you're at it, while I'm at it, I'm gonna put a little dab of that's a capacitor there, and they're kind of known for breaking off with hard use. So I'm gonna put a little dab just to help keep them securing. Because versus using a big RC charger, I like the fact that I could take this and a battery pack and go charge my stuff up. So anyways, you people have a good day now. You hear?